So Dalton to the Cowboys. Obviously, there's a lot of buzz about Dak Prescott. I know some people are saying, some people are rumors that he's holding out, hoping that Las Vegas gives him an offer because Vegas is Vegas. And they need a sexier quarterback than who they have right now.
Derek Carr's good.
I'm not saying he's bad. I'm just saying they need a sexier quarterback, somebody who's going to draw people in a little bit more, like I don't know, a Dak Prescott or maybe Aaron Rodgers.
Imagine that.
So
John Gruden loves everybody, so he loves Aaron Rodgers.
So
he didn't love Khalil Mack.
Regardless of how much weight that they carry, the rumors did start this last week about Aaron Rodgers potentially being traded to another team. Now, of course, the Packer fans sat here and said, absolutely not. The Packers would never do that. We look back about a decade and we saw when Aaron Rodgers, granted, he was with the team for a couple of years, but Brett Favre took them to an NFC championship. He was only a few years older than Aaron Rodgers is now. And the following year, he was traded. So I don't think it's completely unfathomable to say that the Packers could potentially trade Aaron Rodgers. You'd think that they would try to work Jordan Love into the system before doing so. And being that they were 13-3 last year and went to the NFC Championship game, it would make sense to bring him back and try to make another run. That being said, he is a very valuable commodity that some teams would be willing to make large trades for. And if you had a head coach and a GM who looked like they were building for the future and trying to build their own team, a large Herschel Walker-esque deal with multiple players and multiple draft picks might be enough to get Aaron Rodgers out of Green Bay. So the question that I want to ask, that we want to ask to everybody watching the podcast, is there a trade deal big enough to have Aaron leave the Packers? What would it take? What would the Packers have to be offered from another team for Packer fans, or just for anybody who watches the NFL, to be able to justify the Packers trading Aaron Rodgers? Let's say the Patriots came in and said, we're going to give you 3 players and 4 future draft picks. Would that be enough? Let's say the Raiders came in and said, we're going to give you our first 3-round draft picks next year, and we're going to trade you a couple players all for one guy. Andrew, I don't know if you can pull it up. What they did for Herschel Walker. It was ridiculous.
7. It was 7 draft picks and 2 players.
7 draft picks and 2 players.
You won't see that now.
The question
it was called the Great Highway Train Robbery. Because it was.
Yeah.
Jimmy Johnson was a genius.
Yeah. So the question that we're asking everybody watching is, what do you think the Packers would have to get? Or what do you think would justify them trading Aaron Rodgers? What would they have to get in return?
Yeah, I mean, I got to tell you, I don't see a scenario where Rodgers even gets traded at all, because as good as Jordan Love looked his second to last year at Utah, I mean, how many times have we seen first-round quarterbacks get drafted and a year later they're out of the league? They just can't cut it. This guy's such an unknown commodity. At this point, there's no way you can pull the pin on Rodgers. You're basically blowing up your entire team if you do that. And for what? For a bunch of draft picks? We've seen how well that's gone in Green Bay. I mean, I'm a Packer fan. Let's not have rose-colored glasses. They haven't exactly hit the NFL draft lottery lately. So I think you ride out Rodgers as long as you can until he leaves. You wait and see what you have with Jordan Love in maybe a year or 2, and then make your decision. But all this talk of getting rid of Rodgers now, to me, it's just filler and hype for the NFL. That's something to talk about.
Take into consideration my question for a second. If somebody like Belichick came in, if somebody like the Raiders came in and offered, let's say, 5 draft picks and 2 players, if somebody made a crazy offer like that, at what point do the Packers have to say, fuck it, we'll take it?
Yeah, I mean,
it has to be like the Khalil Mack trade, but amped up a little bit more.
You'd have to give me like 2 guys the level of Khalil Mack, 2 first-round picks, and then a bunch of filler picks as well.
I mean, as good as Khalil Mack is, Aaron Rodgers touches the ball every
single play, yeah.
That makes him just more valuable.
So in 2 years, the Packers, their cap hit will be down. It won't be 44 million, and then 31 million, and then what? 5 million?
2.5.
2.5. So in 2 years will tell the story big time. And the GM, Brian Gutekunst, said he openly has said on some interviews that they are looking to build more for the future than they are right now. And there was 36 wide receivers that got drafted. Packers chose
none of his that he wanted, which sucked because I wanted the speedster from Penn State, but I think people would have felt it would have been a reach if he grabbed him in the first round. Who cares if you want the guy, get the guy, because that's what we need is a speedy slot.
Well, that was the thing, right? So they were like, you gave up draft capital to go up and get Jordan, but you're not going to give up draft capital to go get a Jeffries like they wanted. I mean, it just makes no sense.
Is that Haywood's kid?
Haywood Jeffries.
Sure.
There's a throwback.
I get so bothered by the building for the future comment because I think the NFL is such a mix of uncertain draft picks, young talent with potential, people at the height of their career, veterans who are on their way out, but probably still a way more solid bet than the draft. I mean, when we look at that mustache. When we look at the Packers, when Ron Wolf started bringing some serious talent in, a lot of those guys were all past their peak, but had 3-4 good years left.
Yeah, you look at Sean Jones, Keith Jackson, Eugene Robinson.
They brought in so many people.
Pretty much that whole D line.
They brought in so many people who, yes, they were past their prime, but they also had a few good years. And they were very, very good, solid, proven players with durability that knew the game, knew what it was like, a lot of those guys, to be in big game situations and
not buckle under the pressure.
And so to me, I get so frustrated when I see this constant building for the future. And again, it worked for Ted Thompson when they won a Super Bowl in 2010. But we've had 30 years of two of the best Super Bowls in history and in 2 rings to show for it. And I just think that building for the future in the NFL is I think you just have to it has to be a mix. Look, we want young talent that can produce in the future, but we need playmakers and we need people who are going to put us in a situation to win. And if you're always just looking down the road, to me, and I'll say this again, Dave, it was funny because you're like, aren't you more worked up than you are? I am. I am. Because what I see with the Green Bay Packers is and I might be wrong, you guys can say, hey, David's just this armchair quarterback who doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about, and you would all pretty much be right when it comes to football.
We all are.
I'm a casual football fan. My perception of what is going on in Green Bay, again, I'm just going to reiterate the exact same thing I said last week. You have a young coach and a young GM, not just new. Okay, let's make it known. These are not just new GMs to the Packers. These are both new and very young head coaches and very young GMs that are trying to get together and build their team.
Yeah, and we don't know what their personalities are like, how they're all meshing with each other.
It was no secret. It was no secret that Aaron Rodgers and Mike McCarthy didn't get along. And some of that has to do with, the people that they put around Aaron. I think some of it has to do with play calling. Aaron, being as experienced as he is and as talented as he is, probably thinks he's going to be able to get up to a line and look around and say, maybe I'll choose the play here. And, when LaFleur came in, if the first year comes around and you have those tensions again, and we saw tensions right from the get-go in the preseason. I mean, straight out of the box, we saw tension with LaFleur and Rodgers. And LaFleur,
what preseason? Rodgers didn't even play in the preseason.
Exactly. So LaFleur might be trying to pull his own little flex here and say, "Yup, I might be a head coach, but I'm not going to be pushed around."
Well, I think you have to do that. You can't come in and let a player dictate to you. Maybe in the NBA you can with like a LeBron. But in the NFL, you've got to put your foot down. You can't let these guys run you and control you.
I agree with that to a certain extent. However, I have to think, if I'm somebody like Aaron Rodgers, and I'm when LaFleur came in, a 12-year veteran of the NFL?
Yep.
2005? 14-year veteran of the NFL. I'm a 14-year veteran of the NFL. I'm an MVP. I'm a Super Bowl MVP. I'm arguably one of the greatest of all time. Look, you're going to come in.
Dave's just wishing the Bears
he
would take
probably
Cedric
expects
Benson.
a level of respect as well.
I can see
and
that.
If you get some
That's
young
fair.
hotshot, hey guys, hey look at me, I'm the young sexy head coach that all the the girls from Green Bay are swooning over. Pew, hey, finger guns to you.
My eyes are straight.
What's up? Yeah, I'm the coach of the Packers.
My eyes are straight.
Hey, Aaron
That's
Rodgers.
one thing he had going for him.
I'm in charge
Jesus.
now. It's not you anymore. I'm the star of this show. And I think, look, Aaron Rodgers is the fucking star of the show. And if the GM or the head coach have problems with that, well, guess what? Maybe you're going to have tension. But,
well, there was the tweet, and I can't remember the guy. He's out of Green Bay. He said that LaFleur. Well, this is him saying it, not LaFleur. But people have said LaFleur's done with Aaron Rodgers' act. So that's what progressed even more. So there's a lot of rumors flying around.
I can see it both ways. I mean, I've watched the games on Sunday, and I've watched Rodgers' skill somewhat deteriorate. I've seen him miss guys that are clearly wide open. He doesn't trust a lot of the young receivers. So it's like, you can't have it both ways. Either Rodgers is going to go out there and deliver and do what the coach says, or if he's going to do it on his own, then fine, do it on your own. But I didn't see a whole. What were his ratings? Like, where did Rodgers rank this last couple of years? Well, he was in the top 10, but I think he was in that lower bit of the top 10, despite how good his stats were. Only 4 picks, only 2 picks, and has great football knowledge. I'm not taking that away. Yeah, 2 picks the year before, 4 this year. Not taking that away.
2 and 4.
What I'm saying
or
is,
you could have a Winston who has 30.
Yeah, I know. He couldn't see.
Oh,
that is true.
Winston.
They had to get him the Ricky Vaughn glasses.
Winston is terrible.
He couldn't see, man.
Excuses.
The guy couldn't fucking see. How did the team not know that their quarterback couldn't fucking see?
Hey,
yeah, they should have.
I can read street signs now. Wait a minute. You couldn't read fucking street signs? Look, it's one thing if they put the sign 30 feet away and you can't read the E. What the fuck does the next one say?
Some of those
That's one
recs
thing.
back.
When you have your NFL quarterback, you're paying millions of dollars. Oh, I can read street signs again. Like, so is that fucking bad?
So, dude, you look at Rodgers last year, his rating was 95.4. That was like the best that Favre ever did.
Right,
as a quarterback for the Packers was in mid to high 90s.
Shut your. We don't want your statistics.
But you have to look at it. Yeah,
you
sorry, numbers don't lie. But you
get the fuck out.
You look at it this way though. Favre was always contemplating retirement. Rodgers has always stated, "I'm playing into my 40s." So you bring in Jordan Love, it's a totally different situation. So then when Favre did retire, they're like, well, we got to give the keys to Rodgers because they did see him play the year before at Dallas. High pressure situation. He came in. They almost won the game.
Yeah, he looked like a stud in that
He looked
game.
great. So, like, I specifically remember, if you saw the ref today, him even texting me, I'm not as worried when Rodgers takes over this team when Favre is done.
Yeah, Favre would always have that freaked out look in Dallas. His eyes were like as big as saucers. He'd be sweating. He was never afraid to play in Dallas.
He never won in Dallas. Never won in Dallas where he had Rodgers. Other than that game, he's never lost in Dallas.
Favre never won a game in Dallas?
No.
Fucking Troy Aikman.
Hey,